Captain Elias Ward had fought a dozen wars among the stars, but nothing prepared him for the message that arrived that night. It came not through human channels, not from any allied fleet, but directly into his private command console, marked with a single crest, a silver crescent wrapped around a starburst, the mark of the Kalaran Queen. Her message was brief, her voice calm and cold like the edge of space. Captain Elias Ward of Earth. You are summoned to the Crystal Throne. One night is granted. One decision will bind or end our worlds. Then the signal vanished. The bridge of the frigate Horizon's wake fell silent. The hum of reactors, the soft flicker of holographic charts, all muted under the weight of those words. Lieutenant Ruiz broke the silence first. It's a trap, has to be. The Kalaran slaughtered half our colonies. You can't... Elias raised a hand. She called me by name. How would she even know who I am? She's their queen, sir, Ruiz said. She knows everything that bleeds under her flag. But Elias wasn't listening anymore. He was staring out the viewport at the scattered stars, cold, endless, silent witnesses to 1,000 years of war. And for the first time, he felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, not anger, but curiosity. 3 days later, a lone shuttle broke through the shimmering light of the Kalaran homeworld. It was unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. A planet of crystal mountains and rivers of living light, suspended within a nebula that painted the sky in colors beyond the spectrum. The capital rose like a crown from the clouds, spires of silver and glass that sang softly as the winds moved through them. He was escorted by tall, graceful figures with mirror-bright eyes. None spoke. Their steps echoed softly along the glowing halls until he reached a chamber vast and silent as the void. There she stood, the queen of the Kalarans. Her skin shimmered with silver-blue luminescence, her movements slow and deliberate, like she was part of time itself. Her eyes met his, deep and filled with galaxies. Captain Ward, she said, her voice soft yet carrying the power of storms. You came. I don't know why, he admitted. Your people and mine aren't exactly on friendly terms. Perhaps that is why I chose you, she said simply. She gestured to the throne behind her, a towering shape carved from translucent crystal, pulsing faintly with inner light. It wasn't a chair. It was alive. This, she said, is the Crystal Throne. It has ruled my people for 10,000 years, and now it rejects me. Elias frowned. Rejects you? You're their queen. I was, she whispered. But the throne is not made of stone or metal. It is made of will, of life. It chooses who may rule. It chose me once, and now it seeks another. Her eyes met his again. It seeks you. Elias took a slow step back. That's impossible. I'm human. I don't even understand what that thing is. Neither did I when it chose me, she said softly, and yet it did. The chamber was silent except for the faint heartbeat of the throne. Why me? Elias asked finally. She turned away, her long hair catching the pale light. Because your kind still believes in mercy, she said. Because when all else burned, humans still reached out to save others. That spark is gone in my people. Elias looked at the living throne again, pulsing, breathing, and felt the weight of her words settle into him. You want me to take your place, he said quietly. I want you to decide, she corrected. You have one night. At dawn, the throne will close forever. If no one claims it, my people will die with me. Her gaze softened. One night to decide, Captain Ward, between your stars and ours. As the queen turned and walked away, her reflection scattered across the crystal walls, and Elias was left alone with the living light of the throne, pulsing softly, waiting for him to choose. Captain Elias Ward didn't sleep that night. The Kalaran sky was alive, a living aurora that flowed across the clouds, whispering in colors that had no names. From his guest chamber high within the crystal citadel, Elias could see the alien world pulsing like a heartbeat, the light of it seeping into the walls, into him. He'd spent his life among stars and steel, command decks, gravity locks, the smell of ion engines, but here the air hummed with something older, something alive, and somewhere below, the queen waited. When she summoned him again, it was not to a throne room, but to a garden suspended in the sky. Vines of glass and flowers that glowed softly like breathing embers surrounded them. Pools of silver water mirrored the galaxies above. She stood beside the water, her reflection rippling across the surface. "I could not sleep," Elias said quietly. "Nor I," she replied. "The throne stirs when a new soul is near. It feels your doubt." He hesitated. "I still don't understand. You say the throne chooses. But why? What is it?" She turned, her expression unreadable. "You humans build with metal and code. We built with thought and memory. The crystal throne is not a seat of rule. It is a bond. It joins the ruler's soul with the spirit of our world. Every queen, every king becomes its voice, its heart. And when you die, part of us remains within the throne," she said softly. "That is how our empire endured for millennia, each ruler living within the next, a chorus of ancient wisdom." Elias frowned. "Then why can't it choose another of your kind?" Her eyes dimmed like stars behind a cloud. "Because our song has faded. The chorus has gone silent. The throne no longer answers the Kalaran soul. It rejects us, it seeks something new." She walked closer, the silver light of the nebula haloing her form. "When I first reached for the throne, it nearly destroyed me. It tests the heart of the one it chooses, not for power, but for truth. I survived because I still believed in something pure. But my people forgot that belief long ago." He watched her carefully. "And you think I have what your people lost?" "Yes," she whispered. "Compassion, defiance, the ability to love without reason." Elias shook his head. "We're not saviors. Humans can be cruel too." Her gaze didn't waver. "Cruelty is born from fear, but you still feel. You still fight to protect what you love. That spark is life itself. The throne responds to life, not perfection." The queen turned back to the pool. "Our world is dying, Captain. The light you see in the sky, it is the last breath of our core. Without the bond, the balance will collapse. My people will wither." Elias felt a weight settle in his chest. "And if I take your place?" "Then you become one with the throne," she said quietly. "Your mind, your spirit, they merge with the chorus. You will never return to your world. You will not die, but you will never be wholly yourself again." He stared at her, stunned. "You're asking me to give up my soul." "I am asking you to share it," she corrected gently. They stood in silence for a while. The garden's light shimmered around them like falling stardust. Finally, Elias spoke. "You said it seeks truth. What if it finds none in me?" "Then it will unmake you," she said simply. "And me with you." Elias laughed softly, a sound of disbelief more than humor. "That's a hell of a gamble." She looked up at him then, not as a queen but as someone unbearably alone. "I have lived for 400 years, Captain. I have seen empires rise and fall, watched stars die and reform. I have loved no one in centuries. I have nothing left but this final hope, that someone from the stars we once called enemies can save what remains." Her voice trembled. "You have one night to decide. But know this, the throne will not wait for morning if your heart chooses fear." Elias took a slow breath. The nebula glowed brighter above them, its colors swirling like 1,000 unseen eyes watching. He wanted to speak, to tell her he didn't believe in fate or destiny. But when he looked at her, he saw something ancient and fragile behind the power, a plea. And in that moment, for reasons he could not explain, Elias Ward stopped seeing an enemy. He saw a soul asking for trust. The chamber of the crystal throne was dark when Elias returned. Only the faint pulse of blue light beat within the heart of the room, like a sleeping giant breathing. He didn't know what he expected. Maybe ceremony, maybe guards, but the queen was alone, standing beside the throne, her expression calm but shadowed with worry. "You came back," she said softly. "I said I'd think about it," Elias replied. "Didn't say I'd run away." A small smile ghosted across her lips. "That is good. The throne respects courage." Elias folded his arms. "You said it tests whoever touches it." "Yes," she said. "Through memory, through truth. It will show you what you must face in yourself and in your kind." He nodded slowly. "Then let's get it over with." The queen stepped closer, her silver eyes bright in the dim light. "When it begins, do not fight what you see. Accept it even if it burns." "I've seen worse," he muttered. "No," she said softly. "You haven't." He reached out. The crystal was warm beneath his palm. A pulse ran through it, once, twice. Then a blinding light filled his vision. He gasped as gravity vanished. The chamber, the queen, the throne, all dissolved into endless starlight. He floated in a sea of memory. At first he thought he was dreaming. Then he saw Earth, blue and bright, spinning in the dark. He saw the first rockets rising, the first ships leaving orbit, the first colonists building cities on red sands. He saw humanity's triumph and its cruelty, wars that burned skies, planets stripped bare, refugees adrift among stars. Then he saw himself, standing on a battlefield long ago, smoke in his lungs, a dying enemy soldier at his feet. Kalaran eyes staring up at him, begging wordlessly for mercy. He remembered that day. He'd let her live. Against orders, against logic, and she had run, vanishing into the fog. The memory twisted. The dying Kalaran became the queen, younger, wounded, her eyes wide with the same fear. "You spared me," her voice whispered through the stars. "When I was your enemy." Elias blinked, his breath caught. "That was you?" The vision shifted again. Now he saw the Kelleran world, once bright, now dimming. He saw the throne's light flickering, the people fading into silence. Whole cities crumbling not from war but from despair. A whisper filled his mind, not her voice and something older. The throne is life bound to will. When the will falters, the life fades. He saw Kalarans walking through shining streets, their faces empty. No laughter, no song. Just existence without purpose, and then humans. Loud, chaotic, wild, laughing, fighting, dreaming, living. It was like watching fire beside cold marble. The stars folded inward until the vision became a mirror. In it, Elias saw himself again, but older, sitting upon the throne. His body glowed faintly, veins of light tracing through him. He wasn't dying. He wasn't living. He was becoming part of something vast. He felt peace, and then terror. The voice returned. To rule is to surrender the self. To save is to disappear. The light shattered. He fell. Elias gasped awake on the floor of the chamber. The queen knelt beside him, her hand hovering just above his chest. "You saw," she whispered. He nodded weakly. "I saw everything. The throne showed you truth," she said. "Not promised truth," he struggled to sit up. "If I take it, I become part of it. No more me." Her gaze softened. "You would live on in every heartbeat of my people. You would never be forgotten," he shook his head. "That's not the same as living." Silence filled the chamber, heavy and endless. Then the queen said quietly, "You once saved me. That act changed the course of two species. Now I ask you to save us again, not with war, not with power, but with sacrifice." Elias stood, his legs trembling. He stared at the living throne, its light pulsing like a waiting heart. "How long do I have?" he asked. "Until dawn," she said. "The sun will rise in 4 hours." He gave a tired, almost bitter smile. 4 hours to decide if I stop being human. "Or if you teach us how to be alive again," she said gently. The chamber's light dimmed. Somewhere beyond the walls, the first glow of morning crept across the alien sky. And as Elias looked into the heart of the living throne, he realized the truth. The test wasn't only about power, it was about hope. And hope, he thought, was the most human thing there was. The dawn light of Kalara was unlike any sunrise Elias Ward had ever seen. It poured through the translucent walls of the citadel in shifting waves, gold melting into blue, blue into silver. The entire palace seemed to breathe, but inside the throne chamber the air was heavy, thick with something that felt almost alive. The throne pulsed faster now, its rhythm echoing through the floor and into his chest. It was as though the world itself knew time was running out. The queen stood before the great window, her silhouette traced by light. When Elias entered, she didn't turn to him. "You've seen the truth," she said softly. "Now you understand the cost," Elias nodded. His voice was low, rough. "If I sit on that throne, I lose myself. My memories, my body, everything. I become part of it. Part of you." "Yes," she said. "Part of all of us." He stared at her back. "And you'd let me do that? Let some stranger, some enemy take your place?" She finally turned. "If I believed you were still my enemy, Captain Ward, I would not have called you here." Her expression was calm, but her eyes betrayed her. They were shimmering, and not with light, but with sorrow. Elias walked closer. "Why not one of your own? You said the throne rejects them, but maybe they just stopped trying." "They did," she said. "Long ago. My people are afraid to feel, to open their hearts again. We forgot that empathy is strength. The throne remembers what we lost. It waits for someone who still knows how to care. He frowned. So that's what this is about, emotion? She stepped forward, close enough that he could see the faint glow beneath her skin. Not emotion, she said. Connection. The ability to see yourself in another, even one who once tried to destroy you. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the quiet thrum of the living crystal, like a heart waiting to be shared. Finally, Elias exhaled. I don't think I'm what you're looking for. Her voice was a whisper. You are exactly what the throne chose, he shook his head. I've seen what happens when people think one life can save everyone. It never ends well. The queen's gaze lowered. Perhaps, but sometimes one soul can light the way for others. They walked together through the quiet halls of the citadel. The Kalaran architecture shimmered around them, living walls that whispered with echoes of the past. Elias noticed something he hadn't before. Faint shapes within the crystal, like shadows of faces, thousands of them. He slowed. Are those voices of the throne, she said. Each ruler leaves a piece of themselves behind. They guide the next if the next chooses to listen. Guide, Elias said slowly, or control. Her expression didn't change, but her voice softened. Both, he stared at her. You're afraid of them. Yes, she admitted. When I first joined the throne, their voices were kind. Then they became demanding. They wanted me to rule as they had, without mercy, without hesitation. The longer I sat, the less I remembered who I was. I thought I was strong enough to resist. I was wrong. She turned to him fully now. That is why I cannot take the throne again. If I do, I will become like them on another echo. But if you take it, if a human heart joins the chorus, it might change them. It might teach them to feel again. Elias stared at her, silent. He thought of Earth, of the chaos, the beauty, the laughter and tears, of how humanity never stopped fighting to live no matter how much it hurt. Maybe that was what she saw in them. Not perfection. Just persistence, but the cost. He clenched his fists. You said I'd never come back? Never see my world again? That is true. He nodded slowly. Then it's not just empathy you're asking for. It's faith. She looked at him with something that might have been awe. Faith is a word my people forgot centuries ago. They stood in silence as the light deepened across the horizon. Finally, Elias said quietly, If I refuse, if I walk away, what happens to you? The queen smiled faintly, the sadness of it breaking something in him. Then I will fade with the dawn. My people will follow. Our world will fall silent. We will become another story told among the stars. Her eyes shimmered brighter now, tears of liquid light. But if you choose to stay, the song continues, Tao, and perhaps, Captain, it becomes something new. Elias turned toward the glowing throne. He could feel it waiting, calling. It wasn't hunger. It was hope. He closed his eyes. Maybe, he whispered. It's time we wrote a story together. The queen's voice trembled. Then you must decide before the second sun rises. Elias looked to the window. 2 glowing orbs climbing the edge of the world. Only one remained below the horizon, 1 sun left. 1 night to decide. The throne chamber was quiet again. Too quiet. Only the faint hum of energy, like breathing crystal, filled the air. Elias stood by the great window, watching the light of the first sun fade. The second would rise soon, and with it his time would end. He could feel the weight of the queen's eyes on him. Steady, waiting, but not demanding. She had given him silence to think, and that silence had become its own kind of storm. At last he spoke. Tell me something, Your Majesty. She tilted her head slightly. Ask, why me? He turned to face her fully. You said the throne chose me, but I don't buy it. You could have ignored the signal. You could have waited for another. Why call a human? The queen's expression softened, and for the first time she looked uncertain. Because I remembered you, he frowned. Remembered? Her eyes glowed faintly, like moonlight reflecting on water. During the war, there was a battle on Nidar 4. You spared a Kelleran soldier. You carried her to safety when your own unit was burning. Do you recall? Elias's throat tightened. Yes, she was wounded. I couldn't leave her behind. That soldier, the queen said softly, was me. The air seemed to leave the room. Elias stared at her, trying to find words. That can't be. I was young, she said. Reckless. I fought to prove myself worthy of the throne. And then I was struck down. I remember looking up and seeing a human soldier standing over me. I thought you would end me. Instead, you carried me through fire. You left me where my healers would find me. She stepped closer, her voice trembling just slightly. That act changed me, Elias Ward. It showed me something I had never understood, and mercy without reason. I carried that memory for centuries. It became my compass when all else failed. Elias swallowed hard. You remembered me all this time? Yes, she whispered. And when the throne began to fade, when I felt my world dying, I reached into the stars and sought the same light I saw that day, the one that spared me. She was close now, her presence both warm and cold at once, the light from her skin flickering like starlight through tears. Elias looked away. You think one good deed makes me fit to be your replacement? Not replacement, she said. Partner, he turned back sharply. Partner? She nodded. If you accept the throne, I will not vanish completely. My spirit will remain within it, beside yours. The bond will link us, not ruler and subject, not master and servant and equals. For the first time in our history, Elias blinked, startled by the emotion in her voice. You'd share the throne? Yes, because I am afraid. The words were so quiet he almost missed them. You? He asked. Afraid of what? Her voice broke a little. Of being forgotten. Of failing my people. Of letting the last of my kind die without hope. I have worn the crown of a goddess, Captain Ward, but inside, I have been alone for too long. Elias stared at her. In that moment, the mighty killer and queen didn't look like a conqueror or even a ruler. She looked human, in the simplest, most heartbreaking way. He reached out before he realized it, his hand brushing hers. The crystal threads of her skin shimmered where they touched, warm and alive. You don't have to face this alone, he said quietly. You never did. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Instead, she placed her hand over his heart, her fingers light, trembling. You say that, she murmured. But if you join the throne, you will be alone. Your body will dissolve into light. Your voice will become one among the countless whispers. You will never touch, never breathe, never see again as you do now. That is what I fear for you. Elias met her gaze. Maybe that's the point of empathy. Doing what we fear most because someone else needs it. The queen closed her eyes. Then you are braver than I. No, he said gently. Just more stubborn. That made her laugh. A sound like wind through chimes, faint but real. The second sun began to rise, golden light spilling across the chamber. The living throne flared brighter, its glow calling them both. The queen turned to it, then to him. When the sun clears the horizon, the choice will be sealed. If you do nothing, the bond will end. If you sit upon it, it will begin. There is no in-between. Elias looked at the throne, then at her, at the being who had once been his enemy, who had once ruled 1,000 worlds. Now standing before him with tears that shimmered like starlight, he took a deep breath. I don't know what's right, he said. But I know what's real, the queen's voice trembled. Then choose what feels alive. And as the light of both suns filled the sky, Elias Ward stepped toward the throne, heart pounding, hands shaking, carrying with him the weight of 2 species, and the fragile thread of something new. Trust. The throne's hum filled the air like a heartbeat. The closer Elias stepped, the louder it grew, not as sound but as feeling. It vibrated in his bones, deep and ancient, as if the whole planet were awake and holding its breath. Behind him, the queen watched silently. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes were not. In them he saw every emotion she tried to hide, fear, hope, sorrow, and something else she hadn't dared to name. The chamber light shifted. The first sun had already cleared the horizon. The second climbed fast. Dawn was close. Elias stopped a few steps from the living crystal and looked back at her. If I do this, what happens to you? She hesitated. If you accept the bond, my body will fade. My essence will remain in the throne beside yours. I will not die, but I will no longer walk this world. He nodded slowly. And if I refuse? Then the light will die. The world will shatter from within. My people, my memories, all will be gone before the next dusk. She said it calmly, but her hands trembled. Elias looked at the throne again. Its surface rippled, the light within growing brighter as if it could sense his doubt. "I don't want to be worshipped," he said quietly. "I don't want to become some eternal voice in the stars." "You will not be worshipped," the Queen said. "You will be remembered." He gave a dry laugh. "There's a fine line between the two." She stepped closer. "I cannot command you, Captain Ward. The throne would reject a forced choice. Only a willing heart can join it." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "That is what I learned too late." Elias turned toward her. "You talk like someone who regrets being queen." "I regret forgetting what it meant to be alive," she said. "When I first took the throne, I thought ruling meant never showing weakness. But it was my weakness and my ability to feel that gave it life. When I buried that, the throne began to fade." She stepped closer still until they stood almost within the same glow. "You feel too much, Elias Ward. That is why it chose you." He looked into her eyes, galaxies trapped in liquid light, and said softly, "Then maybe it made a mistake." The Queen's lips trembled into the faintest smile. "Perhaps, but mistakes are what make your kind beautiful." The room fell silent again, the tension stretching thin as glass. Elias paced a slow circle, his mind torn between two worlds, the one that had made him and the one that now needed him. He thought of Earth, the scent of rain, the laughter of his crew, the sound of old songs playing in the mess hall. He thought of everything human, messy, fragile, wonderful. Then he thought of this world, glowing and silent, dying under its own perfection. A people who had forgotten how to laugh, how to love, how to live, and a queen who had carried the weight of it all, alone. He turned to her. "What happens if I sit on that throne and fail?" "Then it will consume you," she said simply. "And me with you." He gave a crooked grin. "You have a terrible way of asking for help, you know that?" For the first time she smiled fully. The light of it was brighter than any dawn. "You humans have a terrible way of giving it. You never ask what it costs." Elias laughed softly. "Yeah, that sounds about right." The Queen's expression softened. "Elias Ward, you once saved my life. This time I cannot ask you to save me again, but I can ask you to believe that some things are worth the price." He met her gaze. "You mean people?" She nodded. "Always people." The throne pulsed faster now. The light began to fill the chamber, rising up the walls like sunrise flooding an ocean. The Queen looked to the window, the second sun's rim breaking the horizon. "Time," she whispered. Elias turned to her one last time. "If I do this, what do I say?" Her voice was trembling. "You say nothing. You only feel. The throne will do the rest." He stared at her, memorizing her face, the shimmer of her eyes, the fragile hope behind them. Then slowly he reached out and took her hand. Her fingers were cool, trembling, real. "Whatever happens," he said, "you won't be alone." Tears glimmered down her silvered cheeks. "Nor you," and together, they stepped toward the living crystal. As the first rays of the second sun spilled into the chamber, Elias felt the air change, sharp, electric. The throne responded, light blooming like a heartbeat meeting his own. He placed his hand against it. The surface rippled beneath his touch, then pulled him forward like water swallowing light. He gasped, half in terror, half in awe. The Queen's voice reached him through the blinding glow. "Do not fear it. Let it see you." The light flared, gold and silver intertwining. The room vanished. The stars themselves seemed to bend around him. He felt her beside him, not in body, but in spirit, her presence brushing against his mind like a hand across his soul. "Elias Ward," her voice echoed within the light. "This is our moment." He reached out into the blinding brilliance, not to command, not to conquer, but to connect. The throne's song rose, a sound older than the stars, and as the second sun climbed fully into the sky, the choice was made. Light. That was all Elias Ward knew at first. A flood of gold and silver, so bright it swallowed thought, sound, and self. He felt his body dissolve, not painfully but peacefully, as if the boundaries of skin and bone were just illusions melting away. The warmth wrapped around him, pulling him through something vast and endless. He could no longer tell where he ended and where the throne began. And then, through the brilliance, he heard a voice. "Do not fight it," said the queen, her voice not in his ears, but in his mind, soft and steady. "Let it see who you are." He tried to speak but found no words. The light itself answered him instead, touching his thoughts, peeling them open like pages of a book. He saw everything he was, the fear, the love, the doubt. Memories flickered through him like starlight. His first command, his first loss, the day he chose mercy over orders, the day he carried an enemy through fire, the throne saw. And for the first time it understood. 1,000 voices stirred within the light, old rulers, ancient kings, and queens of the Kelleran past. They whispered, echoing, overlapping like wind over water. This one feels. This one remembers pain. He does not seek power. He seeks connection. The light dimmed, focusing. And then the chorus spoke as one. "We accept." Elias gasped as something vast and alive filled him, a universe of thought and memory, all flowing through him in an instant. He could see everything, the Kelleran cities, the dying skies, the fading hearts of a race that had forgotten how to live. And then, like a spark in the dark, his own human warmth spread through it. Laughter, chaos, compassion, stubbornness, life. The throne's pulse steadied. The fading lights of the citadel flared once more. Far below, across the planet, sleeping cities awoke. The crystal spires glowed again, bright and alive. The people lifted their heads and felt something stir in the air, a warmth they had not known in centuries. The queen's voice reached him again, faint now like wind fading into eternity. "You did it." Elias Ward. "No," he answered softly, though he had no mouth to speak. "We did," he felt her smile, not in sound, but in the quiet joy that rippled through the bond. Then our song begins again. And she was gone, not vanished, but part of him, her essence woven into the new heartbeat of the world. When the light faded, the throne was still, where 2 figures had stood. Now only one form of living crystal remained, shaped vaguely like a man, yet pulsing with light that moved like thought. The Kelleran guards who entered the chamber fell to their knees, not out of fear but reverence. They felt the voice in their mind. Calm, human yet vast as the sea. "Rise," said the voice. "You are not servants. You are alive." Across the planet the same words echoed in every mind, every heartbeat, and for the first time in 1,000 years the Kellerans wept. Not from sorrow, but from feeling. Years later, historians, human and Kelleran alike, would tell different versions of what happened that morning. Some said the human captain sacrificed himself to save an alien world. Others said 2 ancient souls merged to create something entirely new, a bridge between species. And some whispered that the stars themselves sang that day, a sound too vast for any ear to hold. But those who lived through it remembered something simpler. They remembered waking to find their world alive again. Light returning to the skies, warmth returning to their hearts, and a single message carved in crystal across the throne's base. Life is not power, life is connection. In the centuries that followed, the union of Kellara and Earth became legend, 2 worlds joined by one act of empathy. The new throne never demanded obedience. It offered guidance. The people learned to laugh again, to build, to dream. Sometimes, when the auroras rippled across the night sky, they said you could still hear 2 voices in the wind, one calm and silver, the other rough and human, speaking together in harmony. We are not alone. We never were. And far across the galaxy, where stars still burned and life still fought to find meaning, that truth echoed like a heartbeat, because one human, one night had chosen not power, not glory, but empathy, and in doing so, he had taught the stars how to feel again.